Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have got a small group of folks here this morning, actually in the Sarratt Cinema, but we know that there could be a great many of you that are watching online. So we thank you and we appreciate you joining us this morning. I'm Catherine Rolfe. I'm with the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs Office. My day job is working with a lot of our international clinical settings and then helping with administrative matters for the entire medical center. And I will tell you, it has been an honor over the last few weeks to have the opportunity to work with our Flood Resources and Communication Center. I've had the opportunity to come alongside several people from across the medical center and the university who have been working behind the scenes and long hours to bring services to our faculty, staff, and trainees, and we just appreciate you all letting us have this opportunity to help serve you. More importantly, we couldn't do anything or get a group together without first stopping and thanking all of those people who've been working so hard over the last few weeks. For all the folks who were in during the flooding, who were taking care of patients and students, who were helping to keep the floodwaters at bay from our hospitals, who were dealing with emergency cleanup, we can't thank you enough. We thank the people who have been working the Flood Communication Center. We thank our EAP and counseling folks who have worked with so many of you. We thank our leadership for swiftly putting into action several things that have been put there to benefit our employees. We thank our website creators who were working at midnight certain nights to make sure that information that needed to be up for our employees, for our faculty, for our trainees was there. Our communications teams who are getting information out to everyone. And for those of you who have been working diligently to get to work, stories of people who are riding bicycles for an hour, stories of people who are walking into work, stories of people who are coming together and carpooling so that we can keep our university and our medical center open. We thank you so much for all that you're doing. Our hearts have been overwhelmed by all of the things that are happening in Nashville and Middle Tennessee, and I think if there's any time to ever say Tennessee is the volunteer state, the events of the last few weeks have certainly solidified that. We know we've got a long road ahead of us, but we appreciate all that everyone is doing to get our community back together. There's some key things I want to make sure you know about before I turn the program over to FEMA. One is to make sure that everyone knows about the Vanderbilt flood site, vanderbilt.edu/flood. There is a tremendous amount of information on there. We're working to make that, to get it so it's in buckets and a little more organized so that you can quickly find the resources you need. But I will tell you, people have been sourcing tons of information from disaster assistance to flood recovery to how to put your home back together. There's a tremendous amount of information on that site, and we want to make sure you get there. Go to the main vanderbilt.edu homepage, and you'll be able to find that information. Secondly, we want to make sure you know that on this website there is not only how to get help, but how to help. So if you are a employee of Vanderbilt and you want to know how to help others, there's a Vanderbilt Helping Vanderbilt section of that website. If you've got things to donate, if you've got the ability to volunteer, there are aspects of that website that will allow you to get plugged in. There's also information in there about the disaster benefit pay. Again, if your home has been destroyed or made uninhabitable, there is additional leave time that can be afforded to you. We also have a Flood Communications Center. That number is 322-4362, 322-4362. It's manned from 9 to 3 each day, and we want to make sure that you have that information. So if after today's session or if after looking at the website you're not sure about how to get information, we want to make sure that you have a phone number to call so that you can get help. But most importantly today, we want to connect you with FEMA. FEMA has been great. They have rolled into Middle Tennessee and are providing us a tremendous amount of assistance. Today's session, what we're going to try to focus on is what FEMA can do, what services they have, and while we know everybody has an individual story, what we're trying to find out today is about the assistance that FEMA can give and what they can do to help you as you are getting back to normalcy. So it is my pleasure to introduce Susie Calvert. We do want to make sure you understand that FEMA has a disaster assistance center currently at 100 Oaks. So we were really lucky to be able to have that disaster assistance center there, and she will talk more about that. But we have with us today Susie Calvert.
I want to thank Vanderbilt for asking us to to come tell you about the FEMA process. There are not very many employers that go to this much trouble to have us come out and talk. And we love talking about what FEMA does, because the more people that understand the process, the easier it is for us, and hopefully we won't get as many complaints as we've gotten in the paper before. If you read the Katrina thing, we really did get slammed for that, and FEMA did a great job in Katrina. So I want you all to know that everything we do is not always correct, but we try. And we try to straighten out anything that any mistakes that we made. Today, before I start talking about the FEMA process, I'd like to tell you about a couple of things that will help you learn more about the FEMA process and the recovery. We talked about the Disaster Recovery Center at 100 Oaks. There are also 2 others in Nashville, and this will be on your Vanderbilt website. One is at Ford Complex Community Building on West Hyman. Did I pronounce that correctly? And the other is Hartman Park Community Center on Tucker Road. Now, those 2 disaster recovery centers are open to you. There will be other disaster recovery centers opening across the Middle Tennessee section and West Tennessee, as we are able to roll those out. That some will open and close, and then they'll move to another site. So everybody in Tennessee will have access to a disaster recovery center at some point in time. In the Disaster Recovery Center, you can talk to a lot of agencies that can help you out. Sometimes we have the IRS there to talk to you about what happens there. Generally speaking, aging may be there. Somebody from the state may be there. Red Cross may be there. And especially in this first month of the disaster, those people also will be in our Disaster Recovery Center. The most important person that will be at our Disaster Recovery Center, besides FEMA, will be the Small Business Administration, SBA. And we'll talk about that as I talk about the process. The other thing is that if you register for FEMA, you will be sent a book called Help After the Disaster. This is one of the best books that FEMA puts out to give you the process. Anything you need to know is in that book. It talks about how to appeal, and I mentioned that first because a lot of people want to know that. FEMA didn't give me enough money. We'll talk about the appeal process as we go through also. But the Help After the Disaster will answer lots of your questions. The other things that are important are the website, www.disasterassistance.org. And also, that is on the Vanderbilt website. The telephone number to call to register is also on the Vanderbilt website. Both of either the telephone call or the website are places for you to register. The best place to register is the website, because it's fast, it's easy, and there are about 21 questions. Also, on the Vanderbilt site, it will tell you exactly what you need when you sit down to do the registration on the website. So everything is out there for you. The other thing that I want to mention to you, if you need some additional help, there are lots of voluntary agencies in town doing what we call muck out. That's helping you clean out your home. Call 211 and they put your name on the list, and at some point in time those agencies will get in touch with you. 211 is working hand in hand with Hands On Nashville, which is a place that agencies call to get help, or to find out who's called 211. That's what I should say. And they pair victims with agencies to help. So that is available to you. Also, if you need other information, you can't remember where the website, where the Disaster Recovery Center is, 211 has that information. So there's lots of help out there for people also. Are there any questions about that before I get started talking about the process? Okay, let's talk about the process, the FEMA process. FEMA is governed by the Stafford Act, which was passed in Jimmy Carter's era, so I understand. I believe that was after Camille, 68, when he in office then. I think so. Anyway, he decided that the government needed an agency to help when we had a disaster, so that became the Federal Emergency Manager. We have guidelines, and very strict guidelines, of what we can and cannot do. The biggest thing that affects you all, and it is the way we run the individual assistance section of FEMA, is duplication of benefit. There can be no duplication of benefit. So all of these things that I'm going to tell you today that you may or may not be eligible for, if you get it from FEMA, you cannot get it from somebody else. And that is the rule that sort of governs what FEMA does. FEMA has set up what we call the sequence of delivery, and that's the process that we use to decide when people are eligible or when they are not eligible for FEMA funds. So I want to go through that process. The first thing that happens is after a disaster, when the president has to declare an emergency. Now, the governor will declare a state of emergency for the state, but the president is one that's going to bring FEMA in. So he is the one that makes the declaration that FEMA is deemed to be needed in the state, and in this case, Tennessee certainly needs us here. The emergency phase comes usually we're still in the emergency phase here. The emergency phase is governed by the local government and voluntary agencies, and the most that they are concerned with are food, sheltering, and clothing for the emergency. We want everybody to be able to have food, clothing, and shelter. And then they're also doing a lot of search and rescue. I think the search and rescue operation has closed, but that was going on last week. Voluntary agencies are very important in the very beginning stage because they are the ones that help with the feeding, and they are the ones that manage the shelters that get set up. So there's lots of tension going on in that emergency phase. As the emergency phase sort of closes down and people are not so much in a crisis mode, and we begin to calm down and make good decisions, then that's when the FEMA process really becomes important. So the first thing you're going to do is register with FEMA. When you register with FEMA, there are about 21 questions they ask, I think. One of the questions they're going to ask is, do you have insurance? Most homeowners have household insurance, but household insurance does not do anything for flooded homes. You have to have flood insurance. But FEMA doesn't know what kind of insurance you've got. Even though you tell them you've got household insurance, they want proof of what you've got and the fact that you are denied from your household insurance for having flood insurance. So I want to talk about those people that have insurance right up front, because there's a hold on your getting any further help from FEMA until that household insurance, flood insurance, is taken care of. The other thing is, if you've lived in a flood area or have flooded before and gotten FEMA help for being in the floodplain, you were required to handle flood insurance from then on. If you did not, there will be no help from FEMA. So when we determine about the insurance, then everything else, you will follow down the sequence of delivery. Is that clear? Okay. So now, if you are eligible for housing assistance, there are different types of housing assistance. The first one is temporary housing. And when you turn in fill out the form for registration, and FEMA deems from the way you've answered your questions, you may be eligible for rental assistance immediately. And they will send you probably 2 months of rental assistance. Now, FEMA does not pay for deposits, And remember that if you're behind on your deposit, the deposit is gone, and so you're going to have to put a new deposit up. But FEMA does not pay for deposits, but it does help you. Well, it gives you the money to go rent an apartment or rent a house. The amount of money that you received, it goes with fair market value. It also is determined by what you tell FEMA in the registration process. There is one question, well, wait, I'm going a little ahead of myself. The other thing that you will be eligible for is lodging expenses. If you had to move out of your home may not be damaged, but you didn't have access to your home. The lodging expenses, you need to keep those receipts, send them in to FEMA, and will be funds for lodging expenses in some cases. There again, we got to have that insurance that says that they will not pay lodging expenses, because we don't want to do that duplication of benefit. The rental assistance, the letter for the rental assistance will be about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, telling you what their money is for. You can set up an electronic transfer. You will get your money within 3 days. If it's mailed to you, 2 to 3 weeks. The letter telling you that they've sent you rental assistance comes in 2 to 3 weeks. So, the mail's a little slow. And so that holds up here you got this money in your checking account and you don't know exactly what it's for. Now, the next process that happens once you've registered and the rental assistance is taken care of, if you're eligible for it, they will send an inspector out to your house. The inspector will come out and he will tell you whether your house can be repaired or whether they think it needs to be replaced. Inspectors have up to 10 days to come to your home after you've registered with FEMA. Actually, the turnaround has been tremendous. I think they're up to 3 days right now, and that is really great. And they've inspected about 60% of the houses of the people that have registered. So you can see the inspection process is moving very rapidly. And those inspectors make an appointment with you. They do not come to your house without your being there or without a designated person being there. They will make an appointment with you. If they can't find you, if you haven't given them a good telephone number, then that will be a problem. But if an inspector has not been to your house within 10 days after you've registered with FEMA and they were supposed to come, you might call the hotline again and say, or helpline, to say, I haven't gotten an inspector, what's the problem? And they'll get on there and look and see, and it may be that you didn't give them a good telephone number. That happens a lot. So they're looking for a good telephone number to get in touch with you, or you gave them your home phone, and, well, anyway, whatever happens, there can be some disconnect there. Because if the inspector tries to get you 3 times and has not gotten you, then you go back in the big queue. You understand that process? They can't find you. Now, the inspector does not tell you how much money you're going to get from FEMA. All the inspector does is measure your home and lets FEMA know how much damage is there. FEMA only pays for living space. We do not pay for garages. We do not pay for sheds. We do not pay for fences or driveways. We are looking at where you actually live. Remember, we are most concerned about food, clothing, and shelter and a safe, secure, and functional environment. And that functional is very important because we can live without a garage. Yes? If you can prove that you are actually living in the basement, it is a functional part of your house, that will be considered. That's what I should say. It will be considered. If your basement just has the washing machine and dryer and heater down, those kinds of utility things that are important, I'm not going to say they're not important, and they certainly make life more comfortable and functional, but those will be replaced. The heater, the washing machine, and dryer, or they could be replaced, but there will be no help to clean up the basement. Okay? Does that make sense? You don't live in the basement. That's what it amounts to. Yes?
I live in a townhome, and both the doors, the entry doors, were damaged, and I got the impression that they were not going to be rebuilt.
I can't answer that question because I don't want to answer questions about personal things. I want to talk about the process. Well, and that will be deemed by the inspector. See, so that's not it's not my call, and I don't know how the inspector will see what's there. So the inspector will make determinations. Now, if you don't like what the inspector says, there is an appeal process. But let me tell you, do not write a letter that says, I didn't get enough money from FEMA, or I deem this, that, and the other. You must prove to FEMA that the inspector was wrong. And if it takes a letter from a contractor saying the FEMA gave you $1,500 for your roof, it's going to cost $2,500 to get it packed, you send that contractor's information into FEMA and ask for more money. That doesn't mean you're going to get it. It just means that the process is there to help you if you feel you have been unjustly treated, okay? The process is there. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a change in the environment. The repairs or replacement. Do you see that it has a little asterisk down there at the bottom that says up to max grant for replacement or repairs? The maximum grant for FEMA is $29,900. If FEMA deems your house needs to be replaced, you will receive $29,900. If your rental assistance plus your repairs gets to $29,900, that's the maximum you're going to get. FEMA is not an insurance company. You must remember that. The amount of money that they give to you is only a boost to help you over a tight spot. You may never receive $29,900. I want you to know that you will because the repairs may not be more than $1,000, and you don't need to move out of your house. So there are lots of things there, but any one of those three combinations there of 1, 2, and 3, any combination there can add up to $29,900. Is that clear? Everybody will not receive $29,900. Okay. Now, there is a category of there that says permanent housing. That is for our out-of-the-country places like Puerto Rico, Alaska, those kinds of places. And we don't usually have that in the United States. A replacement, that's another thing I need to tell you about, is that FEMA will tell you that your home needs to be replaced. It will not condemn your home. And I want to underline that about 15 times. FEMA does not condemn. We may tell you your home is destroyed, but we do not condemn your home. Only the city, county, or state have guidelines for condemning a home. Now, if your home gets condemned by the state or by whomever, it controls doing that, you can send that information into FEMA, and if you've not reached $29,900, you may get some more money. Okay? But FEMA is not, and I tell you, at every disaster we hear, FEMA condemned my home, FEMA did this, and FEMA does not condemn. The city, the county, or the state has the guidelines for condemning homes. Are there any questions about housing assistance in the process there? Okay, let's move to what happens next. Once the housing assistance is taken care of and eligibility has been determined for you to have housing assistance, the next step in the process is that when FEMA has gone through all that process, they will look at what you turned in at registration, and they will decide whether you are eligible to receive a Small Business Administration packet. Now, we have more trouble with the Small Business Administration packet than we do with anything else. Number one, people don't understand it's for homes. Number two, people don't understand it's for renters. The Small Business Administration gives loans, and they will make you eligible for a loan. Now, everybody's going to say, I don't want a loan, I don't want a loan. We understand that, but let me tell you what else. The federal government does not want you to have a loan if you can't repay it back, or they don't think you can pay it back. So, the Small Business Administration sends you a packet. If you get that packet, you must fill out the packet. You must fill out the packet. They will tell you whether you're eligible for a loan or not eligible for a loan. If you look down, the last thing you can see on your screen, it says SBA loan denied. Do you see that? SBA loan denied. If your loan is denied, you may be eligible for more grant money. If you've not reached 29.9 in the housing assistance, you may be eligible for more grant money. Let's see if I can move down a little bit. Here we go. Yes. That's a good question, and I can't really answer that. I wish I could, but there has something to do with duplication of benefits.
So if you receive any assistance from FEMA and you get an SBA packet, you must fill that out.
The question was asked, why does FEMA require you to fill out the SBA packet? The only thing I can tell you is duplication of benefits. Because if you're eligible for a loan, why would you be eligible for any more money from FEMA? Yes?
Are you saying, though, you could get the grant from FEMA and then also apply for a loan using loan money? This can take a whole lot more than $29,000.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Can you get the grant from FEMA and the loan money? When you become eligible for the SBA loan, they're going to subtract the housing assistance that you receive from the loan, from the amount of money that they... Yes.
So if you were eligible for a $100,000 SBA loan and you'd already received $29,900, they're going to subtract that out of 100 and you'll get the difference. So again, we're having no duplication of benefits.
That's exactly right. Okay, so if you receive a $100,000 loan from SBA and you've already received $29,900 from FEMA, they will subtract the $29,900 from the $100,000 before you get the loan. Okay? So you'll actually get a loan for right at $75,000 in rounding all figures. Yes.
You said SBA is going to be out in Huntsville. We had some individual questions about that.
Absolutely, and that's going to be my next thing I'm going to tell you, okay? SBA's packet comes, and as any government thing comes to you, it comes about 2 inches thick of paperwork that you need to fill out. It looks like a monster has attacked you. It is, go to the Disaster Recovery Center. There is an SBA person sitting there, and they can tell you in 5 minutes whether you're eligible or not eligible for a loan. Maybe they can't tell you that you're really eligible for a loan, but they will tell you whether you need to get some more paperwork together. Remember that FEMA's only asking you about 21 questions in the registration process. So it does not cover things like, are you maxed out on your credit card? Do you have 2 children at the university? Do you have to take care of an elderly parent? Those kind of questions are not asked when you register with FEMA because FEMA does not care. The amount of money that you make or whatever is not part of your FEMA, it's not part of the FEMA process. It is a part of the SBA process. So there's a real distinction there. But if you receive an SBA packet, it must be filled out. Now, let me tell you, the maximum that I know of that we've ever received for SBA packets returned was about somewhere between 30 and 40%. 30 to 40% of the people who have received an SBA packet are the ones that return it. Now, I'm going to tell you, money is left on the table. Because let's move down into other needs assistance there. There is money for medical, dental, funerals, personal property. That's bedroom suits, living room suits. I think a TV is covered in that. Kitchen. That's your personal property. And that money can equal $29.9. If you're a renter and you can prove that you got $29.9 worth of assets in your house, you can receive $29.9 as a renter. Now, if you didn't fill out that SBA packet, if you did not fill out that SBA packet, you are cut off from other needs assistance. Yes.
Investigator came out to my house. I'm eligible for some grant money, irregardless of my SBA packet. The SBA packet would then make me eligible for loans or potentially more grant money. Is that correct?
That is correct. The inspector has been to her home. He has deemed that you were eligible for rental assistance. She didn't say that, but have you gotten any money in your bank account? No. Okay. We don't know whether you're eligible at this point in time. Okay. If she is eligible for rental assistance, she will get that. And then the next thing will be home repair money or home replacement money will come if you're eligible for that. Once that has happened, after the housing assistance has been taken care of for whatever needs to be done, then that's when you will receive or not receive the SBA packet. If you do not receive an SBA packet, you are automatically turned back into FEMA for other needs assistance. So I'm really talking about people who receive the SBA packet.
And what's the criteria that is used by FEMA to determine whether someone needs to complete the SBA packet?
I can't answer that question because I don't know the answer to it. It is determined in Washington, D.C., and they don't really give us that information. But I tell you, everything that the government does talking about families and households is based on the fair market value. That's what it's called, fair market value. HUD, that's the HUD figure that's used, the income for all social services. And so I'm assuming that that's maybe the reason if you're above, you fit into that category.
But what you're saying is the reason you would get the SBA packet has something to do with your financial criteria, your loss, the current situation in your community. There is a formula that they're plugging
Right.
in that determines whether or not you qualify based on the information you give them.
That's right. There's some sort of formula. They've got a standard. I mean, it's not just we're going to choose you.
Right, I'm just curious how I can access that formula.
There's no way to access that formula. They hold it close to their heart, as they do lots of things. As they do lots of things, and there's good reasons for that too. And I know filling out the SBA packet sometimes is a pain, but there is a good reason for doing that, and it does not necessarily mean that you are going to be accepted for a loan. Now, our biggest problem, and those of you who have elderly members in your family that have been affected by this storm, our biggest problem is the elderly population does not want a loan. And can you blame somebody that's 80 years old saying, I don't want a loan, I don't want a loan? I don't blame them. But one of the things that you've got to think about is the value of your home. And if you don't make the proper repairs, then your home is that much decreased in value. And this SBA loan is very low. And I don't have the figures for it, but it is low. It is lower than any loan you can get at the bank, I promise you. Yes, the interest rate on the loan is lower than anything you can get at the bank. Any combination now of housing assistance and other needs assistance could add up to $29,900. So the $29,900 could stop at housing assistance, or if you're get denied the SBA loan, the $29,900 will stop at other needs assistance. After other needs assistance, and you still need help with repairs, there should be or would be an organization in your community that is called Long-Term Recovery Committee, and it is generally made up of voluntary agencies, faith-based groups that come together, that set up a case management system, that you provide the materials to them and they will provide the labor. And so lots of people can get their homes repaired for the amount of money that FEMA gives them. But that is a process. It is a long, drawn-out process. And if you think about voluntary agencies, they do not have enough people to repair you in a day.
How do you get on the list for the long-term recovery group to come and do work at your house?
211.
211. Go ahead and get on it now.
Yeah, 211 will take the name for the long-term recovery committees. And you may not be eligible for them, so don't. That's right. Now, if you have started the recovery process at your home, well, wait, are there any other questions about the sequence of delivery? I don't know. You'll have to go to SBA for that information. What she's asking, she's saying that on the website there seems to be two different rates that you can use. That question needs to stick with SBA. I don't need to be in. I do not know. I cannot answer the SBA part of that. Sorry. Right, yeah. And those are the people that you need to ask. I can't tell you how many people come in to see those SBA people when I've worked in the Disaster Recovery Center. And, boy, they're in there and out of there. It's a quick process. And if you don't have all the information you need to fill out the form, I mean, they can't make a determination from just talking to you about whether you're eligible for a loan or not eligible for a loan. They will tell you exactly what you need to bring back to them. It may be something as simple as a deed. So those kinds of, if you have a deed, I'd take it to them the first time around. They will tell you what you need on the website, I would think. I don't know, because I don't deal with SBA other than to talk about knowing how important it is that you return the packet. Okay. I wanted to talk, what was it we wanted to mention? You told me. Yes, thank you. The process, no telling how long the process can take. FEMA will probably be here for 4 years, not in mass. The other thing is the voluntary agencies, that process is going to be long. Remember, it's 5 years after Katrina, and people are still, volunteer agencies are still going down to the coast to help with the rebuilding process. So it is not an easy process at all. People still have not rebuilt some of their homes. The rental assistance by FEMA is for 18 months. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to give you rental assistance for 18 months. What it means is it's up to 18 months. But for as long as you receive that rental assistance, it eats into your $29.9. Is that clear? No duplication of benefits. Now, the long-term recovery committees that get set up is a case management process, as I've said, and that process, they prioritize. They have a way to prioritize people, and the first people that they're going to deal with are people that can't help themselves, the disabled, the extreme elderly. Those are the people they're going to help first. And, you know, they'll get to you as quick as they can, but let's face it. It is a process. And I'll tell you what else, too. If you've saved your FEMA money to help with the repair process, then you'll probably get help quicker. Why? Because you've got money to buy supplies. If you don't have money to buy supplies, then volunteer agencies have to wait on those supplies to come in. So it's a really good process. That it works, and it can help people in the process. Thank you for having me here today.
Just to summarize back for those that are online with us, we want to make sure that everyone knows about the Vanderbilt Flood website. There is a ton of information there, and y'all, I was on it last night, and I'm involved in this all day, every day, and I'm still finding new information, new resources, new things to tell me about how to recover from the flood. I want to make sure that people still know we have the Flood Recovery and Communication Center that Vanderbilt has opened to assist people, and the number for that is 322-4362, 322-4362. Also on our website, for those of you who have not been affected by the flood, or for your departments or areas that have not been affected, we've got a volunteer site on there. So how can you, as somebody who's got time or things to give, help other Vanderbilt people who have been affected? And Susie's going to be here for just a minute to answer questions, but if after this session you've got questions, please call us in the Flood Recovery Center at 24362. And again, we just thank all of the people who have come together at Vanderbilt to assist all of our faculty and our staff and our trainees. Thank you so much.
I can answer part of that question. A lot of the question was there are lots of benefits being done to aid the flooded victims here in the city. Some of that money, not all of it, because some of it depends on who it goes to and how that organization uses it. Some of it goes to Red Cross, and they will disperse it in the way that they normally disperse money. Some of it will be held up for the long-term recovery committees, and that's where we hope a lot of it will be held up, and then it will go through the case management process to help people with the rebuilding process. But those organizations, Salvation Army has a disaster process already set up. Let me see, Lutheran Episcopal has a disaster response. Presbyterians have a disaster response. Methodists have a disaster response. Baptists have a disaster response. Already here in the area we have Operation Blessing, and I'm not real sure who they're affiliated with, but Operation Blessing is doing a lot of muck-out work here. We also have Samaritan's Purse here, which is Franklin Graham's unit that has a disaster unit with it. Nikama is a Jewish disaster response group. So you have all of these response groups, and Mennonites will be here to help with rebuilding. Christian Reform World Relief will be here to help with rebuilding. Some of these organizations you probably never heard of, but they have disaster groups that come in. But those groups that come in to help with recovery want to work with a long-term recovery committee, because that will help with the process of deciding, prioritizing, number one, but also deciding who's got money to help with supplies, because none of these organizations necessarily have money to buy all the supplies. That answer your question, Pasha?
The Vanderbilt Flood website, if you go to the main vanderbilt.edu page, or if you get to the medical center page, there's a link on there to it, but it's vanderbilt.edu/flood /flood. So /flood. But if you get to any of the medical center or the main Vanderbilt site, there's a click on there where you can get to the flood site. And I think one of the things that, and guys, I will tell you, Susie knows way more about this than I do, but what I can tell you is the persistent person who is accessing several sources and several sites is getting, like for instance, there's money through the Red Cross. I don't know how many of you all have been to our own EAP. We are giving out to people a $200 gift card if you just come into EAP to help with certain, supplies that you have. The Red Cross has money that they're giving out. There's going to be a lot of these sites and kind of going through there, and what we'll continue to try to do with our flood website is triage and get into groups, those sites that will tell you about whether it's construction or help in all those different things. But we're going to be transitioning our site into a resource center, and the website is going to be the main area for resources, hopefully, that will help you guys. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
No. We do not have FEMA-approved contractors. That is a city, county, or state governed way of doing that. Most of the time, cities will ask contractors to register with them. My advice is to call the Better Business Bureau, or to find out where that you call to find out whether a contractor is legitimate or not. And boy, that is a really good question, because there are going to be lots of fly-by-nights in here very rapidly, and they will take your money immediately. Do not pay anybody for a job in the beginning until you're dealing with somebody that is reputable.
We also have in Middle Tennessee the Home Builders Association. The Home Builders Association is a great place to go and get references on people. So you had a two-part question, but the main answer she was saying is if you're receiving funds for rebuilding, they are not going to restrict the type or which contractor you use. So here we'll summarize the question back, is that, and I like to use round numbers because it works for me. You got $100,000 worth of damage on your house. FEMA, the maximum benefit they're going to give is $29,900. If your needs far exceed what your repair cost is there any restriction with how you use that $29,900? For instance, can I use it to buy a refrigerator for my kitchen because the refrigerator was damaged, but I'm not using it toward rebuilding my home, but I am getting a refrigerator because the rental place where I needed a refrigerator. There's no restriction, or is there?
Well, if you receive money for rental assistance, that's what that money is for. If you end up not needing all the money that they've given you for rental assistance, you better have a good way to have spent the money. Now, be sure that you don't talk about deposits. I tell you, FEMA does not pay deposit. That was one thing I didn't say. If you, whatever receipt you get, put it in a shoebox, hold everything that you've got that's important to you, to your recovery process. And my advice is to get yourself a notebook and write down everybody you talk to, what time you talk to them, what day you talk to them, because I guarantee you FEMA knows when you call them, because it's on the computer exactly when you call. So you need everything yourself in case you have to do any of the appeal process.
So what you're saying is that if you make a phone call into FEMA and you've talked to Catherine and she's told you X about a subject, you want to put on Thursday, May the 13th, I talked with Catherine at FEMA. The question was this. So it's almost like keeping a running diary of what you do, and then more importantly in that, so even if I have gone out to Target or Walmart and had to buy a whole bunch of cleaning supplies, keep those receipts, because those would go as a portion to my repair and recovery with regard to my home.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with all the damage, if the damage is more than the 29.9,
Which in many cases it's going to be.
okay, so we're already upside down on the house. You're gonna give me 29.9, and 29.9 ain't gonna fix anything. Then, you're gonna go down to this SBA loan thing, but no matter what the interest rate is, I was already upside down on this house because of the loss of value of the house. So, I don't want to put any more money in it.
Okay.
So, you gave me 29.9, and I'm looking at a house I'm upside down. Can I take the 29.9 and go buy me another house and just let Wells Fargo take it back to disaster?
Okay, if the 29.9 is for replacement, then you're free to, you can go to Hawaii if you want to. I mean, you can move to Hawaii. I don't want to be funny about that, but we did have somebody in Florida that did that. Yes, you can use that.
So it's how your money has been coded.
Right.
So your money has either been coded.
My house isn't gonna be coded to replace the 29.9.
Okay, well, you keep all, if you want to make an appeal for whatever they give you for home repair, you're free to do that by getting a contractor out there to send FEMA the breakdown of what it is and say, I would like to appeal, this is what it's going to cost me for repairs.
So you're saying, chuck it. We're going to chuck it.
All right, well, don't
gonna
come back and ask FEMA for any more money. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Well, if they give you, but see, what I'm more concerned about, 29.9, you can do what you want to because your home was destroyed. So, okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think in this situation, the best thing we can do is, and this is where that individual counseling with FEMA
Right.
is going to be really good, because we're all going to have our unique situation, but what I'm hearing being said is how your funds are coded. Is it for temporary housing? Is it for repair? Is it for replacement? Those are key pieces to this, but your situation is such that you may say, you know what, to repair this is not in my best interest. But that counselor at 100 Oaks is going to be a great source. And then more importantly, not more importantly, but also with regard to that, I totally lost my thought, and I'm sorry. I'll have to come back to it. Yes, ma'am.
How will we know if we have a direct deposit? How will we know how it was coded?
Oh, you will get a letter. You will get a letter. The letter will be probably 2 weeks down the pike, but you will have the direct deposit in your bank account. Now, if you need to go find a place to rent, I would not hesitate to do it with the money that came into my bank account, because rental assistance, if you've been deemed to get rental assistance, that's going to be the first thing you're going to get is rental assistance, and it's not going to be much. I shouldn't say it's not going to be much. It's going to be, if you're a single person, you need one-bedroom apartment or something of that. That's all you're going to get money for. The fair market value for this county or this city and what you need. That's what you're going to receive the first time around. And if it's for rental assistance, go find yourself an apartment. The other thing, if you want to start repairs on your home before the inspector gets there, just take tons and tons and tons of pictures, and they will go from there.
And one other thing I want to make sure I'm also hearing you say is this, that FEMA has its baseline with regard to how it evaluates and the assistance it gives you. However, you can come back and petition because of maybe the unique value of your home or where it was located, so that if you can come back to them and show and say, and again, this is a bizarre thing, I had a $1 million home, and 29.9 doesn't even begin, but if you can show the a contractor who's come and said, these are the repairs, this is what's going to cost because of even your square footage. But the main thing that we would tell you is getting with that individual counselor is going to be key. And as you know, we have the shuttles that go back and forth to 100 Oaks. So get on a shuttle right out there, talk to them, come back. We had another question down here in front.
Just to clarify, so you are saying do not use FEMA, that was money that was allotted for temporary housing for repair. Don't use repair money for replacement then, because you're going to have to show receipts for each avenue. Or can you use the 29.9 dispersed across however you want to do that? And will they ever ask for receipts down the line of how you spent the money?
No, when they deem your house is destroyed, then the 29.9 is for any kind of replacement that you need. Where people get into trouble is when they get less than 29.9, and that's when the coding becomes very important. Was this for rental assistance or was this for repairs? Now, sometimes people do have to use money for other things, but it's got to be really justified along the line, and I can't make that justification. But they'll talk to you about that at the Disaster Recovery Center.
The summary conversation here is that all of us are going to have individual questions, and that working with those counselors in a disaster recovery center, whether it's at 100 Oaks or one of the other places we've set up, I don't want anybody to leave here without making sure you know about the disaster pay benefit. If your home has been destroyed or is uninhabitable, you qualify for up to 2 weeks of additional leave that does not count toward your regular accrued leave that you've got that. EAP has the ability to give you temporary like debit cards that have funding on it. The Red Cross is doing that too for, I think, around an amount that's $500. And I know those are small amounts, but if we're all going and buying bleach at Walmart and Target, you know, that goes a long way with information like that. And that if you're having any issues, get to the Vanderbilt Flood Recovery Center. We'll hopefully answer as many questions as we can, and just continue to let us know kind of what those needs are and how we as a community can assist you. Thank you all for coming today, and get out to 100 Oaks. Thank you.